Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility, here to announce the passing of another great musician in the music world, the late, great David Sanborn, one of the most acclaimed sax players of the last 50 plus years. He leaves us on May 12th at the age of 78, losing his 5 plus year battle with prostate cancer. Born David William Sanborn in Tampa, Florida, July 30th, 1945. Acclaimed sax player who, at his core, a jazz player. However, he has made such a great impact over the years, playing on so many excellent pop, rock, and funk albums by so many artists. In addition to his great solo career. So he debuted on the scene with his very, very first album in 1975, which is the Taking Off album right here. And, through other albums like David Sanborn and Heart to Heart. And the first album I ever got from him, which was Hideaway from the year from 1981. He also released As We Speak in 1982. And so many of these did very, very well on the jazz charts. Like Hideaway, #2 on the jazz charts, #1 for Voyeur, As We Speak, #1, Backstreet in 1983, #1, Straight to the Heart, #1. Then he did a series of other albums throughout the 80s. His last, he went for many, many years without doing any solo records from like the late 80s until 2018. This Masquerade was the last studio release from him. But this guy has played with virtually everybody. I'm going to try and cover as much as I can. So again, the basis for the David Sanborn sound and style, he was a great technician, but he was more about the feel and about the melody and the emotion. I mean, if you needed a guy who was going to dial up a killer, heart-wrenching melody, that's David Sanborn. He always kind of got thrown in with some of the more contemporary players like Tom Scott and whatnot, over the last 30, 40 years. I'd say contemporary, obviously he's not someone from the 40s and 50s and 60s, right? He got his start later on. But he definitely had that sound that if you needed that kind of silky, sweet sax tone, this is the guy to call on. And as you're going to see, based on the amount of different albums that he has appeared on over the years, everybody in the music industry knew that this was the guy to call on. So, Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking from Roger Waters. Yeah, he plays on here. Undercover by the Rolling Stones. He's on here. Todd Rundgren loves him. He's on Initiation, A Wizard of True Star. Need a killer sax solo on a kind of California country rock record. The Eagles knew who to call. The Long Run, he's on here. Steely Dan certainly knew what the deal was with David Sanborn. He's on Gaucho. Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run. David Bowie's another cat who was like, all right, get him in here for Young Americans. He was part of the touring band for that same tour, right? He's on the David Live album. What else? Toto Fahrenheit. Mike Stern's Upside Downside, right? Mike Stern has always had great sax players playing alongside him, including Mr. Sanborn. Tommy Bolin, Teaser. He's on here as well. What else? He has appeared on George Benson's Good King Bad, Pacific Fire, and In Your Eyes, right? Best-selling album from 1983. Played on a couple James Brown albums in the early 70s. He's also, I should have pulled him out, but he's on the 3 Brecker Brothers albums. The Brecker Brothers self-titled debut, back-to-back from 1976, and the return of the Brecker Brothers in 1992. They called upon him again. He's played on some Randy Brecker solo albums. He played on a bunch of Paul Butterfield albums. Gil Evans albums, Maynard Ferguson, Michael Franks, Bob James, Al Jarreau, Steve Kahn. Played on 2 Manhattan Transfer albums, one in 75, one in 87. Played with Pure Prairie League, Kenny Loggins. He appeared on 4 Carly Simon albums. He appeared on 4 James Taylor albums and other albums he has appeared on. Eric Clapton's Journeyman. Stevie Wonder, Talking Book. Played with Joe Beck, Hubert Laws, Michael Bolton, his 1975 album. Played on Jaco Pastorius' self-titled debut. Played with Phoebe Snow, Larry Coryell, Larry Carlton, Linda Ronstadt. He's on Living in the USA from 1978. Steve Forbert, Tony Williams, The Joy of Flying, John McLaughlin, Electric Dreams. I mean, the list goes on and on. Randy Crawford, John Schofield's Electric Outlet from 84, Kazumi Watanabe, Mobile Splash, Hiram Bullock, played on Mick Jagger's Primitive Cool, Robert Cray's Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, Paul Schaefer he's played with. Yeah, I mean, and there's tons and tons more. Tons and tons more. And I was mistaken about his solo albums. He actually had released plenty of albums in the 90s and the early 2000s, but his last one, like I said, was 2015. He's got solo albums in total. It looks like well over 20, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, about almost 25 solo records. So this Masquerade from 2018 and Time in the River from 2015 were the last two. But he had a handful in the 2000s, a bunch in the 90s, but you know his fertile period was basically 75 through the late 80s. Quite a lot of solo records in that time span. So a great sax player. Just David Sanborn, and I've had the opportunity to see him live a couple times back in the early 90s, and just the guy just commands the stage, and he's just got that aura about him, and he's just the dude who could always deliver just a stunningly melodic solo or melody every single time. And that's what was so great about him. And I really like his, like I said, his solo catalog is actually very strong because it's, it's jazz, but there's lots of funk and pop stuff going on in these albums. So if you haven't checked out, I mean, these are the early ones. These are my favorites. You can get them all in a set in this particular original album series. These are basically the first handful of them. Really good stuff. Really good stuff, and he always has great players with him. That's the important thing. So you get these. Meanwhile, he is the star of the show, but he always surrounds himself with expert players, and he's going to be missed. This is a passing of a true great, David Sanborn. Very, very, very talented guy with such a storied career. Like I said, so many of you probably own tons of the albums that I mentioned today and always remember, oh yeah, that sax solo is pretty good. Never really thought about who played it. This is the guy. This is the guy. So go out and pull some of these old records today and pay tribute to the man and the music of David Sanborn. May he rest in peace. Leaves us at age 78. Truly one of the greats. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together, all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please, if you would, hit the like button before you leave. Thanks for tuning in here to Sea of Tranquility as we share the loss of David Sanborn. Till next time, I'm Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.